Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's Big Dave, and it's time for today's edition of 100 Hug Stories for the last 100 days of 2023. I can't believe that we only have 40 something days, 48, 47 days left in the year. So please, the purpose of this is to keep people motivated and inspired to really achieve their goals by the end of 2023. And so everybody think about, I hope you're enjoying these stories, but I also hope that you're going back and looking at some of the resolutions that you made in January of this year, and really try to just tie up those loose ends, close up those loops. Really achieve what you can for the last, like I said, 40 something days of the year. But anyway, so we're going back for this story to 2011 to Cannon Falls, Minnesota. And I did this trip to celebrate. I bicycled halfway across the United States to celebrate the self-publishing of Traveling at the Speed of Life. And this was a unique trip because this is my third time biking across the United States. I was biking and volunteering at different charities, but it was really unique because I borrowed a bike to do this trip. Shout out to Joe Wenzel. I didn't have any money to purchase a new bike, but I had already set aside the time and everything to do this trip. And so I told Joe at Breakaway Bikes in Philadelphia, I said, listen, if you let me borrow this bicycle for a month, I'll bring it back with a great story. And so he said, yeah. Now, the bike was great, but there was an issue with the rim that gave me a lot of flat tires. And that's where my story begins, with my second flat of, I believe it was a 4-flat day. And I was thoroughly annoyed by it all. And so after, I got the flat, I walked over to a nearby bus stop, sat down, and just started changing my tire. And that's when I guess it was a blue Buick, late 80s, early 90s rolled up. And inside was this elderly man, white-haired dude, who leaned across the empty passenger seat and asked if I needed any help. And I was like, no. And he was like, you sure? And I was like, yeah, man. And so, but then he looked like he really wanted to help me do something. So I said, man, I'm good, but I guess you can talk to me while I change it. And he said, okay. And so with that, we began a conversation, talked about my travels, talked about his life, just talked about two old guys talking on the side of the road. And so after about maybe 20 minutes of talking, he said that he had to take there was a sleeping child in the back of a car, in a car seat, to his daughter. And he said, I got to get my grandbaby back to her mother. And he said, listen, man, just travel safe. And he thanked me for my time and waved goodbye. And that was it. Or so I thought. And so after I fixed the tire, I'm biking, and I don't get more than, really probably less than a half a mile down the road. And all of a sudden, psst, every cyclist knows that sound. They hate it, that dreaded sound. There was another flat. And so this time I'm standing on the side of the road, trying to fix the flat quickly. There was no bus stop for me to sit down. So as I'm doing this, here comes that same Buick, rolled right up on me. And everything was just as it was a mile or so before, half a mile or so before, except this time the old man got out of the car. And as he approached me, I could see that his eyes were just puffy and red, and that he had been crying. And, I didn't know what was going on. And before I could say anything, he just said, hey, man, listen, I'm glad I found you. Listen, I don't have much time left. And when he said that, he just choked back some tears, and he said, I got a bad diagnosis a little while ago, and I just don't have much time. And he said, I haven't told my family, and the only people that know this are me, my doctor, and now you. And when he said now you, he just sort of just pointed and poked me in the center of my chest. And so with tears streaming down his face, and and it was an emotional moment, and I was starting to cry. He sat on the hood of his car, and he just, he continued crying. And after a little while, he composed himself and blew his nose. He had handkerchief, and he just blew his nose in his handkerchief and put it in his pocket. I got to tell you, that really is an annoying thing. I find it gross. But anyway, that's it. I digress. But through the sniffling, he shared that, the diagnosis and his not having much time consumed him because all he could think about was the world that's being left to his grandchildren. He said, it scares me. It really, really scares me. And he said that, because of that, he just hadn't said anything to his family. He said, but speaking with you for a few minutes made me feel so much better about that world. And I just want to say thank you. And he said, thank you again. And he pointed and touched my chest, didn't poke it like before. And he gave me a hug. And he offered me a ride to a bike shop or something, and I declined. And before driving off, he said that I think I'm going to tell him today. And he just said, keep going, man. Keep going. And that's it. And that's one of those stories that, you can't script it. You can't make it up. It happens. And it is something that makes me really think about the chance encounters that not just I have, that we all have, and what you can do in a moment by just having a good attitude, by just having a smile. Because you don't know what that smile is going to mean. You don't know what that good attitude is going to mean to somebody else. And so I hope this story makes you smile. I hope it makes you share your good attitude and your good vibes, because somebody may need them. And so that's today's story. I hope you enjoyed it, and be well, everybody. See you tomorrow.